Hey, welcome everyone. This is Mike from ZoZoStockWatch.com, and this is going to be your Let's Get Ready for the Week Ahead, April 29th through the 3rd of May. Sorry if my voice sounds a little funny. I'm fighting a little bit of a spring cold here, but we'll do the best we can. So let's talk about the market a little bit. If you're new to the channel, on this Let's Get Ready for the Week Ahead video, we talk about the market action that happened on Friday and last week, and then we go into what we need to be watching for the week ahead. So we'll kind of start it here with the SPY, right? As you know, and I'm sure you've heard, look at this beautiful V bottom, right? The world was coming to an end here. Then the Fed goes ahead and does that 180, right? When they said that they were not going to be raising rates any longer for 2019, and that opened the door for the bulls and pushed us up here on the SPY back to new all-time high. So basically, what we've done is, we've come back and taken out the 2018 highs here, right, on the SPY. And let's see if we've gotten to all-time highs. 293.94 on the SPY here, and we closed at 293.41. So a little bit of a ways to go. Let's go ahead and look at the weekly chart real fast. And I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but as you remember, we've been doing videos since the December fall and pointing out how we bounced right off the 200 SMA on the weekly, and here we are back up to the highs on the SPY. And the Qs, pretty much same thing. All the markets are doing the same thing. The Qs actually did break out to new all-time highs as the semiconductor sector has been very strong. Let's go ahead and take a look at the markets from Friday. So the Dow Jones was up 81 points. The transports were up 36 points. The Nasdaq up 28 points. The S&P 500 up 13, 14 points on the day Friday. And a very nice close for the bull on Friday. You want to see money being invested on a Friday, meaning that they're willing to hold over the weekend. So a very strong move. There was a lot of concern last week about the IWM. It was lagging. I mean, it is still lagging, but we are back above the 50, holding above the 200 SMA. We have this 160 area up ahead on the IWM. We're pretty much around the middle of the range on the IWM. The micro caps, the IWC, still remains below the 200 SMA on the IWC. The IBB made a little bit of a comeback last week. We bounced, but as you can see, we're still below the 10 SMA here on our daily chart for the IBB. So a lot of work to do here. And then the smaller biotech names, the XBI, pretty much the same thing. We're trying to get back above the 200 SMA here. We actually did get above the 10 SMA on the daily chart. If we go ahead and look at these on the weekly, you can see more clearly that we are below the 10 SMA on the weekly. And for the IBB, we remain below the 10 SMA for that on the weekly chart, but we're holding above the 200 SMA on the IBB, and that was a bouncing point for the IBB last week. So oil did take a hit last week. The OIH was down almost 4% last week. The SLX, that's the steel sector, down 4% for the week last week. Oil USO on Friday, the change, we were down 3% alone on oil on Friday. If we look at the light sweet crude oil WTI for the change on Friday, down about 3%. Here's light sweet crude oil. So we're back below that $65 a barrel. President Trump was out tweeting that oil was too high, that they need to lower the price of oil again. So his tweets did have an effect on the market. As you can see, oil did reverse back down, and we are back below that $65 level, right back to around the 20 SMA on the daily chart for light sweet crude oil WTI. After being hit on some political worries, the healthcare sector bounced last week over 4%, and the XLV, the healthcare ETF, that bounced a little under 4% for the week on the XLV. Let's take a look at that on the daily chart here. So we had some political talk that healthcare for all in the United States, that pushed us down to about this $85 level. But as you can see, we've come back. We still remain below the 200 and the 50 1050 SMA, but we have gotten back some momentum. Moving averages here, we're back above the 5 and the 10 SMA on the XLV. There was some concern there. The XLC, the communications sector, up 3% for the week. As we noted, the XBI was also up 3% for the week this week. To the downside, the areas retail was down about almost 2% for the week. The airlines were down 1.5%. The XHB, the home builder ETF, down a little under 1.5% for the week. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the best stocks for the week. We start out with PYX up 31% for the week. Nice daily chart shaping up here in the cannabis space for PYX. A big move. JMIA for the week was up over 14% for the week. A lot of the IPOs have been doing well. SILK doing real well this week. Another recent IPO up 18% for the week there. Tiger with a nice move for the week, up 8% for the week. Roku with a nice comeback. Our earnings are coming up on Roku in a couple of weeks on the 8th of May. This stock popped 12% for the week. Twitter, after their earnings report, stock moving up almost 13% for the week on Twitter. Nice weekly chart shaping up here on Twitter. Has that $40 area that it needs to get above and hold above on TWTR. Facebook climbing this week after their earnings report, beat estimates, up over 7% for the week. TNDM climbing this week, up almost 17% for the week. Guess Jeans Incorporated, the apparel stock, up 16% for the week. Hasbro climbing this week, a big move up in Hasbro, up almost 16% for the week. Yelp coming out with earnings up 10% for the week on Yelp. TWLO over in the software application space, up 11% for the week. Hexo back into the cannabis space, up 15.5%. Big strong move here in Hexo Corp, mostly on Friday on that name. ANTM climbing back after being pushed down on those healthcare concerns, up 11% for the week. NOW now pushing up 13% for the week. Splunk in the software application space, moving up almost 8% on the week there. CGC finally breaking up over that $49 spot, pushing up to almost $50 this week, up 12% for the week on CGC. Cronus Group moved up this week almost 9% on that one. And NBEV was up this week, up about 5% on the week on NBEV. Looks like it's trying to clear that $6 area on NBEV, so that one had a good week. Workday back to the software space, climbing almost 9% for the week on that name. Ford came out with earnings this week. A nice move up here. If you notice, we are below the 100 SMA on the weekly chart here, and that 1050 area may act as some resistance for Ford going forward, so keep an eye on that. ATHX came out with phase 2 news here. This stock was up 20% for the week on ATHX. First patient in their phase 2, so up almost 21% on that name. RGEN, they are acquiring a privately held company in the C Technologies by RGEN. The Wall Street liked that. Stock was up 26% for the week. SSLJ moving up this week, up 8% for the week on this name. And then we had RBZ climbing this week. Not a super move as far as price, but this stock was up 29% this week on this name. Ugly weekly chart there, but recently has done a 1-for-8 reverse split. Had a big week though, up 28% on that name. DSS also climbing this week. Some news out on the name, up 8% this week on DSS. AVP, takeover chatter, and a lot of option activity excuse me, in AVP. This stock up 21% for the week. Qualcomm, after the settlement with Apple, kept rising this week, up almost 9% on the week on Qualcomm. ZIOP, this stock moving up 11% on the week. ZYNE also having a very good week, up 36% on the week on this biotech name. And that's some of your best stocks for the week. Let's go ahead and look at some of the worst stocks for the week. Once again, I apologize for my voice. Battling, like I said, a little summer, I'm not summer, spring cold here. So IRBT, after announcing earnings, this stock was priced for perfection here, taking a big move down, down 22% for the week on IRBT. Tesla having a bad week after their earnings report came out. This stock dropping 14% for the week. WWE released earnings, not good enough, down almost 14% on the week there. 3M over in the Dow space, down almost 12.5% on the week as their earnings did not meet expectations, and they also lowered guidance here on 3M. TGT was hit this week as Amazon is coming out saying that they're going to be announcing, trying to put into place one-day shipping. So this Amazon news also hit Walmart and a lot of the other retailers, as it said it plans to start a one-day shipping plan for Amazon. So as you can see, Target was down 7% for the week there. Urban also dropping this week 5% on that name. JWN, Nordstrom's getting hit almost 6% on the week. Snap had their earnings come out. This stock did not fare too well. Still battling that $12 area. User growth was up a little bit, but not enough to satisfy Wall Street. This stock dropped 7% for the week on SNAP. UPS falling this week, down 9% on that name for UPS. WDC was downgraded this week. Stock lost 8%. XTX down in sympathy, down 11% on this name. We had XLNX. They came out with earnings, but this stock has had a big move up. It did bounce, but we were down almost 12% for the week on Xilinx in the semiconductor space. Intel came out with their earnings, not good enough, and slightly reduced guidance. Stock dropped 10% going forward for Intel, a big semiconductor name there. OSTK dropping this week, 13% on the name on OSTK Overstock. FCX had earnings this week. Wall Street didn't like what they heard there, so down 11% for the week in the copper space. HOG also came out with earnings. Stock dropped 9% for the week. CTRV, they decided they were going to do an offering and dilute their shares out there. Stock dropped 52% for the week on CTRV. FTFT also dropping this week, down 13% on that name. We have a airline that dropped 11% for the week. Hawaiian Airlines, HA, BOXL also dropping this week, down about 11% on this name. On Boxel, HEAR, they announced the share buyback a couple of weeks ago, and still the stock is dropping almost 8% for the week. They had earnings also a few weeks ago and has not done well. Turtlebeach, they're involved with Fortnite and headphones for gaming. The stock not faring too well at the moment. STLD over in the steel space, stock dropped 7%. IQ was down in China. IPO name down 6% for the week. GNLN, a recent IPO, this stock down 14, almost 15% for the week on this recent IPO, GNLN. So Friday we had the GDP come out. Economy grows 3.2% in the first quarter, so that helped boost the bulls and keep them moving the markets up. So the economy showing good strength as well as a short-term boost. This coming from Market Watch on the GDP. Hearing a lot about the record buybacks going on. This is courtesy from Bloomberg. You can see the buybacks that have been going on since 2015 to 2019. So a lot of share buybacks continue to rise after last year's all-time highs on share buybacks. So this is kind of what's pushing the markets up. Once again, this courtesy from Bloomberg. Want to show you the fear and greed index. Currently, we're at 72. The CNN business, the fear and greed, their oscillator. So we're getting a little bit stretched into the extreme greeds right at the moment. We've been as high as about 74, 75 area. So let's see what's going to happen next week. But we are getting a little bit stretched short term in the markets here. Just be aware of that. Let's go ahead and take a one-day performance look from Friday. This courtesy of FinViz. So you have Amazon up over 2% on Friday. As you can see, the oils were taking a hit on Friday with oil moving down. Disney strong again. Disney up almost 2%, Netflix moving up almost 1.75%, Microsoft edging higher. The banks were getting some buying on Friday, as you can see with Wells Fargo up almost 1%, Bank America almost up 1%, Visa, MasterCard also moving up. Apple was down fractionally. Home Depot taking a little bit of a hit, down almost 1.5% on the day on Friday. But overall, a good strong day. Caterpillar up over 2% on Friday for that name, and Honeywell climbing over 1% on the market on Friday. UNH with a nice recovery in the healthcare sector, up almost 3% for Friday on UNH. This is your heat map courtesy of FinViz. For our calendar of events coming up for April 29th to May 3rd, this courtesy of the Trade Exchange news service. So the FOMC meeting begins on Tuesday. The decision will be coming out on Wednesday, the 1st of May. They're not expected to raise rates at this meeting. There will be a Fed chair conference, a presser at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. So not only do we get the announcement, but he will be fielding questions from the press on that day. Going into Thursday, pretty straightforward economic numbers coming out. Don't forget also on Wednesday you get the oil numbers coming out at 10:30. Going into Friday, though, we do get the jobs number coming out for the beginning of the month for May. So those numbers will be coming out at 8:30 on Friday. So that's another thing. The U.S. jobs report will be coming out. U.S. and China trade talks are going to be going on this week. They'll be due to get underway this coming Wednesday. U.S. Secretary Steve Mnuchin and the Trade Representative Robert Leitzer traveling to Beijing ahead of another round of meetings scheduled for this week between the U.S. and China. So we may be getting some news on those meetings, and that's pretty much your economic news coming out. So the main things, we do get some China numbers coming out on Wednesday evening. Nobody is expecting a rate increase here on Wednesday, and we have the jobs number coming out this coming Friday, and then we do have the U.S. and China will be talking this week in Beijing. Another big week for earnings, this courtesy of Earnings Whisper. Some of your top names, most anticipated earnings release, courtesy of Earnings Whisper. Spotify will be reporting Monday before the open. Google, Alphabet will be reporting after the close on Monday. Western Digital, WDC, AKS Steel, AKS, the symbol there. GE reporting before the bell on Tuesday. Shopify, SHOP, MasterCard, McDonald's, Pfizer, Merck, General Motors will be reporting. Apple, a big day on Tuesday after the bell. Apple reporting, AMD, Twilo, TWLO symbol there, Amgen, FireEye, Zendesk in the software space will be reporting. Wednesday before the open, CVS, Amrin, AMRN, Humana will be reporting. Square reporting after the bell on Wednesday. Qualcomm reporting. Zynga, Cree also reporting after the bell on Wednesday. Thursday before the open, Teva, Cigna, Yeti, Wayfair, Under Armour, Dow DuPont, Kellogg's. After the close, we get another big steel company, U.S. Steel reporting, Activision Blizzard, FTNT reporting earnings after the bell on Thursday. Friday, it kind of quiets down a little bit, but you do have some earnings coming out Friday before the open. This is your most anticipated earnings releases, courtesy of Earnings Whisper. So once again, traders have a lot on their plates coming up, a lot of earnings coming out. Now I showed you the most anticipated, and also there'll be a lot of small companies reporting earnings for the week ahead. There'll be lots of earnings, a lot of economic information coming out. We have the China trade talks going on, so quite a bit on our plates. We'll see what the SPY wants to do. As you can see, the Dow is not at all-time highs yet on the Dow. The Qs did break out to new all-time highs, a nice push up there for the tech stocks. Amazon had a very good quarter for their earnings and moving up higher. A lot of price target increases for Amazon after they increased their earnings. Intel, as we talked about, in the worst stocks for the week after their earnings came out, pushing down quite a bit. Apple has earnings coming up this week, basing and holding around that 10 SMA and that $200 level for Apple. AMD also reports this week coming up. That stock holding just below $30 a share on AMD, and Google will be reporting Monday up here near all-time highs on Google. So we'll see what they have to say on when they release their earnings next week for Google. All right, folks, this is Mike from ZoZoStockWatch.com. This is your Let's Get Ready for the Week Ahead video. We'll be coming out with another video, Stocks to Watch. Thank you for putting up with my voice today as I fight that spring cold, and we'll be back at it with another video later in the day.